This comes up a lot with women who are looking to build muscle, tone, build strength in their entire bodies. But the biggest hurdle that they have are their pelvic health symptoms. So whether that's because they're feeling prolapsey, they're, leaking, maybe there's some pain after workouts or during workouts. So this is where women really find themselves struggling in knowing how to build muscle, how to build strength. And we're going to clear that up today. You can absolutely build muscle, build strength with pelvic floor dysfunctions like prolapse. So first, just to give you an idea of what we're getting into today, we are going to talk about, the 7 reasons. There's obviously more reasons than 7, but my top 7 reasons as to why it's important to build muscle and strength. We're going to talk about how to prioritize building strength and muscle, that muscle definition that you're looking for. And then we're going to talk about the exercises that will serve you best while, giving you the most bang for your buck. So even if you're a busy person, busy mom, busy, professional, busy executive, wherever you are in your life, these exercises will help you to put together a program that is quick and efficient for you. I'm all about quick and efficient. I think, nobody wants to spend hours in the gym, and nobody wants to spend hours, working on their prolapse. So in my training and the work that I do, I help women incorporate their pelvic floor into their training. So if you need a little bit more help, this is a little bit more advanced. So if you need some guidance, or my recommendation anyway would be to watch through the training for lady parts training first before catching this, or at least catching it after, because then a lot of these things will make sense. So if you need a copy of that, let me know. You can also find it inside your membership site. So again, if you haven't had the chance to watch that, make sure that you do, because this will clear up a lot of things in terms of how to navigate your symptoms. So this isn't so much about navigating symptoms, it's more about strategy, about building strength and muscle, which is really exciting and one of my most favorite things to talk about. So I'm really excited to chat about it with you now. So if you have any questions, please pop them in the comments below. All right, so let's get started here. So first we're going to start off with the 7 reasons that that we as women need to focus on building muscle, especially as we age. So first and foremost, by the time or after we hit 30, that's when we start losing muscle. And then this process speeds up after we hit 60. So when we think about some of the benefits and some of the risks of weightlifting, thinking about some of the risks here, are things like bone health and muscle health, right? There's your overall health, obviously. But when we age, or as we age, it's harder for us to build and maintain muscle. And then when we hit 60, it's even harder for us. So when we can focus on building strength and muscle, before that, that sets us up for success in the long term. Now, with that being said, it's never too late to start working on building muscle and strength. So even if you're over 30, getting started now, there's never a bad time. But like I said, we do start to lose it when we're not using it. So when we can prioritize strength training, especially after 30, not only are we lowering our risks for osteoporosis, but we're lowering our risks for injuries like breaks. And, you know, as we age, falls, you know, they happen. It's not always about preventing accidents as they happen or preventing things as they happen. It's more about being able to build that strength so that we can handle it if they do. So yes, it builds stronger bones. So again, as we're aging, if we're not strengthening our bodies, we're not strengthening our bones. And in fact, we can lose 1% of bone mass per year after 40, you know, and it also hinders how we move. So things like aches and pains and things like that, right? We want to continuously strength train so that we don't lose those things as we age, so that we can maintain our strength and build and maintain bone health. It also improves pelvic health. Maybe I should have listed this one first because it's the most obvious and why we're here. But it does. Strength training, building muscle helps you to navigate your pelvic health. Reason being is that when you're strong and you have strong muscles, it's less work for your pelvic floor to do. So if you're strength training on a regular basis, you know, your pelvic floor becomes adaptable. So it adapts to the impact that you place on it. Now, this is where this training for lady parts is going to come in, and it's going to make a lot more sense to you and how to troubleshoot these things. But when we do strength train, or when we do any kind of movement, our pelvic floor likes to move with it. Your pelvic floor is an anticipatory muscle. So that means it's anticipating movement before you even move. There's a study done by Paul Hodges that showed, you know, when people just raised their arm in front of them, that their pelvic floor turned on. Now, as we talk about in training for lady parts, the movement in the pelvic floor changes depending on how it's functioning. So if it's overly tight, it's not going to move as well. And if it's on the weaker side, again, it's going to have a harder time moving and keeping up with the demand. So when we strength train, what we're doing is we're also working with our pelvic floor. So we're also strength training our pelvic floor. We're also mobility training and flexibility training with our pelvic floor. So don't shy away from strength training, lifting, building muscle, or anything like that, because again, it's really beneficial to your pelvic floor and how you're able to navigate your symptoms. The stronger your body is, the better it's going to be able to navigate that pelvic health with a well-balanced pelvic floor. It improves the quality of life. Now, I really don't need to get into deeper detail, but it really does improve quality of life. You know, it helps to boost confidence and self-esteem. Right? I find for me personally, when I'm training, everything else falls into place. I sleep better, I eat better, I have more energy. So if you're finding those things too, then keep doing what you're doing. And if you're finding that you need help with your strength training so that you can, you know, really get to a place where you're feeling all of these things, like brave in your body, trusting in your body, you know, confident that your body can handle the impact that you're placing on it or your pelvic floor can place on it, please, you know, again, let me know what your questions are, pop them below. If I'm going too fast, I tend to talk a little bit quickly sometimes because I get pretty fired up. So if you need clarification on anything, please just pop that in the comments. And if you want help with a strength training program, please let me know. Strengthen Lady Parts is going to help you get there. If you want to take a deep dive, you need to go a little bit deeper in your training, maybe you need something a little bit more specific to your goals, then the one-on-one option is good for you as well. So it also is going to help with balance. Balance is a big one. Again, as we age, we tend to lose this a little bit. We tend to lose core stability, and that's where those falls tend to come in. So after talking about all of this, it honestly just blows my mind that, you know, there's people out there saying that we should avoid high impact lifting, building muscle, strength training because of our pelvic health in an effort to save our vaginas. But here's the thing, with all of these risks, you know, of falls and what can happen as we age with our bone health and our muscle health, you know, our organ health, all of that stuff, it's our overall health. It just blows me away that we're told to avoid this when there's absolutely things that you can do to navigate your pelvic health on and off the gym floor. So I always go back to that. If you are somebody that is really worried about your pelvic health, really worried about making things worse, just remember that, you know, when we talk about risk versus reward, is it worth it for you, you know, more so now to start working on your prolapse and navigating it so that you can strength train and, you know, live a lifetime of, you know, wonderful abundance of health? Or, you know, is that fear of making things worse more of a benefit to you? So really think about the benefits and the risks, and, you know, think about what is more important to you. Because like I said, you know, with that list of 7, you know, what we do with our bodies matters. What we do in our training matters. And if we're not training or even just being active to set ourselves up for the later stages in life, then boy, are we going to be in trouble. So if you need help, you need some guidance, you're not alone. There are ways that we can help you become more comfortable through progressive overload. Which is, again, another important step in strength training, is that progressive overload piece. Because your body will adapt quickly, and your body does adapt. It just may take some, you know, it might take a little bit of coordination work for you to get there. So, you know, never think that you're broken, because there's always hope. As I even mentioned earlier when we were talking about a hypertonic pelvic floor or a weaker hypotonic pelvic floor, you know, those things can be managed as well, you know. So your strength training program may require a different approach depending on where you're starting from in terms of your pelvic floor and how it's functioning. But we can get it to a place. It's trainable. It's totally trainable. And your body is strong. Your body can also kick in and, you know, help, you know, do some of the work that the pelvic floor isn't meant to do. Because a lot of the times with strength training and lifting heavy, because that's where, you know, that muscle building comes in, where that strength training builds in. You know, when we're lifting heavy, you know, we don't want to worry about things kind of falling out. We don't want to worry about peeing our pants, or, you know, how it's going to feel in terms of pain, you know, later on or during your workout, right? So there are steps that we can take to help you bridge those gaps so that you can go from glute bridges to back squats. And in strength and lady parts, you'll notice that progression, and you'll notice that you can customize it based on where you're starting from. So if you are starting with glute bridges, then we encourage you to move up and progress and change and lift heavier and progressively challenge yourself over over the 90-day period. You know, if you're starting off with back squats, then you can start there. And again, we're progressing things to challenge you so that your pelvic floor can handle that impact, so that when you get into even higher impact programming like Olympic lifting, boot camps, marathons, whatever it is that you're working on or what your goals are, your body will be well prepared to handle that impact. How to prioritize building muscle, building strength with prolapse. So this is going to feel like a lot. So if you've got questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, simply because I'm speaking in general terms here. So if I'm not covering your specific need, then obviously ask in the comments or email me, or just however is easiest for you. Just make sure you reach out, because I can help you with some specifics depending on what you need. So how to prioritize building muscle. So this may seem tricky with prolapse because, again, we're told that this is something that we need to avoid, that this is something that we shouldn't be doing if we have pelvic health dysfunctions. So here's how I break it down for my clients. Now, again, this is generalized a little bit more. So if you have questions about your specific need, then I'm happy to help you work through that and help answer those questions. So generally speaking, what I will do with a client who has heavy, sweaty goals, who wants to lift heavy, who wants to build muscle, build strength, or just even build general strength. This isn't just about, how heavy you can lift. It's also about being functional for life. And our lives definitely do require us to bend down and pick things up and pick up heavy things from time to time. I remember being, a mom of a toddler and picking up a flailing toddler, trying to get him into the car seat, right? We need strength, whether we're moms or we're just living our day-to-day lives, whether we're athletes, what have you. Now, the strength that you build is going to be dependent on the sport that you're in. So this is going to cover things like bodybuilding, CrossFit, Olympic lifting, weightlifting, powerlifting, and general strength training. If you want some strength training help with running, let me know, and we can set that up. So in terms of pelvic health and timing that into your workouts, what I typically do is, if there's an exercise that brings on symptoms, what I work on is narrowing down the root cause of those symptoms first. So if you're not experiencing symptoms with every single exercise, every single strength training exercise, then you don't have to Kegel through every single exercise. But I will add in a Kegel timed in with your when it's an alignment, when you're breathing, the coordination. I maybe add a Kegel, like I said, and then I'll switch to a variation. So depending on who it is, if they're needing to build strength, or even if they're needing to build the coordination in their pelvic floor, I will add in a Kegel for the exercises that are bringing on symptoms. Now, if you're early postpartum, what I do for that, because that's a different kind of strategy, what we're looking for is a reconnection of the core and the pelvic floor muscles, then rehab, then strength training. So that's a little bit different. So if you need help with postpartum, pregnancy and postpartum work, let me know. but we add in that Kegel, and we're doing, whatever exercises that, are going to help you get to your goal. So if you want to do a heavy deadlift, then we're working on exercises that are going to complement that heavy deadlift, while strengthening your full body, because we need the full body to be strong here. And then what we work on is gradually taking that Kegel away. Because, as I mentioned, your pelvic floor isn't anticipatory. I'm going to say that again. That went a little fast. Your pelvic floor is an anticipatory muscle, and it will eventually do the Kegel without you consciously thinking about it. So that's what we're working towards. We're not working towards doing Kegels forever, just for now. Now I do have the workbook that accompanies this. It's got the 9 exercises in there that you can use. So make sure, if you don't have the training for lady parts, or you haven't watched that yet, just watch that through first before getting into the workbook as well. But we want to make sure that we're training the pelvic floor coordination with those exercises, right? Now, when it comes to lifting, we want to lift between 2 to 4 times a week. Now this is going to look different, again, depending on your goals and where you're starting from. So if you are just starting out and you're quite symptomatic, I'm not going to have you lift 4 times a week. I may start you off at 1 or 2. And that's because what we want to do is we want to monitor your recovery. For a lot of women, when they're lifting, they notice that they feel their symptoms happening later. So they might not happen right away in the workout. They're happening hours after, the day after, a lot like DOMS. So we want to track that and monitor that for recovery. For a lot of my clients, what they notice before symptoms go away is that they start noticing that there's a speed up in their recovery. So what took them maybe, a day or 2 to not feel so prolapsey after a workout, then lasts a couple hours. So that's something that's important to take into consideration. So again, depending on where you're starting, strength training or lifting 2 to 4 times a week. Eat whole based foods. Now, I'm not somebody that's all against processed foods. I do believe that there's a place for that in our diets. And let's face it, a lot of foods that are processed, well, pretty much everything is processed in some form or another. So don't beat yourself up if you do include some processed foods into your diet, or even heavily processed foods. But if you can, have mostly a whole based food diet that includes protein with every meal and snack, then that will help you keep things balanced. Now, balance, I find, looks different all the time. So you've got to be a little bit flexible with balance. So when I do my nutrition coaching with my clients, first we do a deep dive into their lifestyle and then work our way around that, because your fitness program and your nutrition program should be complementary to your life, not overtaking it. We also, want that protein in there too. Women aren't getting enough protein in their diets, and this is probably the #1 reason why I see women even experiencing symptoms, because their bodies can't recover as well, right? So you want 0.08 to 0.1 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Now, I know that seems like a lot, but you don't have to do that with all just animal products or your standard protein. There's a lot of great ways to get protein in your diet. There's a lot of great ways to supplement it. So if you need help with that, let me know. I do have some guides and some recipe books that include high protein, healthy recipes that you can use for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you start noticing some trouble in the constipation department and the digestive department, then make sure that you're adding in extra fiber as well. So I guess something to mention with that is that it's common for a lot of women who are looking to build muscle, when they increase their protein intake, that they experience prolapse symptoms. This could be related just to how heavy the protein is in their bellies. It could be constipation. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're also getting enough fiber. Again, it doesn't have to be, fiber from breads or pastas. It could be fibers from fruit and vegetables as well. So make sure that you're getting enough fiber to support your protein needs as well. Other thing that we want to do when it comes to building muscle, burning fat, is limiting alcohol. Now, alcohol is a known bladder irritant, and for a lot of my clients, they find that they're more symptomatic when they drink alcohol. So that's something to watch out for. It doesn't happen to anybody, and I'm certainly not saying to avoid alcohol completely. But if you notice these things happening, and then you notice that you're not building muscle, you're not burning fat, you're not happy with your results, it may be a good time to start dialing back on your intake. Because it does impact how your metabolism works. It impacts your hormones, impacts your sleep, how your body copes with stress, your appetite, and all of those things. So if you notice that there are a number of these things happening and you're like, hey, I had, some wine the other night. Again, I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to point out that if you notice that alcohol brings on symptoms and that you're not seeing the results that you'd like to see, then it's a good time to start thinking about cutting back, because it does impact all of those other things that I mentioned as well. And when we start noticing, our sleep take a hit, that's when other things start taking a hit too. So something that I teach my clients to do is just to be in tune with their physiology. Now, I know that sounds a little bit woo-woo, but once you start tuning into things, and it could take tracking, so you can track your symptoms with your cycle, with your nutrition, with your moods, what have you, so that you can see these patterns. So I'll often have my clients track with their cycle, just because that seems easiest. So we track their nutrition and their symptoms so that we can track their progress on an ongoing basis. If you notice that happening, cut back on the alcohol. It also raises blood pressure, right? So again, it's just, temporarily, not a big deal. But if it's something that's happening regularly, you may notice these things happening. Recovery. Now, I did touch on this a little bit. Now, we could do a deep dive into recovery, and if you want to do a deep dive into recovery, please let me know, because this is another loaded topic. I'm going to kind of just touch on it a little bit, and then we'll move on to the exercises that you can use to navigate your symptoms as well as build muscle. So that's going to be a lot of fun too. Recovery. So for a lot of my clients, they don't experience symptoms during their workouts, but they will experience their symptoms after. So whether that's in the hours after or the days after, they'll experience symptoms there. So what we want to do is we want to track that. But if you're noticing that happening on an ongoing basis, what I generally suggest is that you take some more rest in between workouts, because it may be an indication that you're overdoing it. So if you are overdoing it, give your body 24 to 48 hours of rest in between, and then go back. This could also be your symptom tolerance. You could have reached your tolerance the day before. So what I will suggest for people in that case is just to dial back their next workout. So decrease the intensity, whether it's the load, the pace, what have you. Take a little bit more rest in between sets. Give your body that good chance to recover. A lot of times what my clients notice, in addition to their prolapse returning after their workouts, is that they also notice patterns in their sleep change. So just be aware of that. I haven't really found that in a study or anything. It's just something that I've noticed with clients in their tracking. It's just a pattern that has come up. So again, another reason why tracking is going to be important for you, so that you can identify when and where these are happening, so that you can come up with a game plan. So those are the big things that I want to cover under recovery. If you want to go deeper into it and get a little bit more specific on how to optimize your recovery, or how to plan your workouts around your recovery, or just how to plan your workouts so that you don't get those symptoms happening, then yeah, just let me know and we can set up another masterclass for that. Lastly, we're going to talk about exercises. So again, there is an accompanying workbook here, the 9 muscle building exercises for women over 35. So if you want a copy of that, I'll include that in the membership site, or just reach out and ask for a copy. Compound exercises. We want to start with compound exercises, first of all, because it will train more than one muscle group at once. So you're getting the most bang for your buck. What I find also helpful is that when you're training compound exercises, it's more work off of your pelvic floor and distributed to your body. Okay, they're functional. Compound exercises mimic the movements that we do day to day. They burn more calories, and they burn more calories at rest. So let's say you're hanging out at home, watching movies, and you just did a heavy workout that day. You're burning calories at rest while you're watching those movies. So hey, isn't that awesome? And they're also modifiable. So if there is an exercise that is giving you trouble, you can always modify it to make it work for you. So exercises to include in your program, things like lunges, squats, pull-ups. Now, if pull-ups are something that you can't do just yet, not to worry, because rows will work too. Presses, so shoulder presses, bench presses, chest presses, deadlifts, chops, carries, so whether that's farmer carries, uneven loaded carries, and planks. So there's that. And there's also that list broken down in that workbook that I was telling you about. So if you want a copy of that, let me know. So yeah, these are all compound exercises using more muscle groups, more than one muscle group at one time. Again, all you need is 4 or 5 per workout. You don't have to run through the entire list. Through the workout, just 4 or 5 exercises, give yourself 20 minutes, and bam. Yeah, so if you are looking for more help with your training, we've done a deep dive here. You want to put this into practice, but you're still not sure how. Strengthen Lady Parts is open for enrollment, and your first month is only $47. So what you're going to receive with that is a 90-day exercise strength and conditioning program designed specifically for pelvic organ prolapse. So you're going to get back into things like barbell squats, deadlifts, even teach you how to do a clean in there. If you're not quite there yet, not a problem, because you can start with body weight or resistance band exercises as well. Every 2 weeks, we have a live masterclass, much like this one, where you can come in. We do a live Q&A to follow. So we'll do coaching sessions on anything from, lifting technique to nutrition to hormones, all of that fun stuff. So it's more of a holistic approach as opposed to handing you a program and expecting you just to kind of follow through with it on your own. We also have a really great Facebook community where you can reach out and ask questions. I also post daily coaching tips in there. So again, you're getting a lot of support going forward. So if you have questions, you're experiencing symptoms and you're not quite sure what to do, you can always pop it in the group. Now, if you want the upgrade and you want the VIP treatment, then you also have the option to join our Voxer group. I can give you some more information about that if that's something that you want to take a look into, and that way you'll have direct access to me and ask me these questions directly. So if you have any questions about strengthen lady parts or anything that we've talked about today in terms of building muscle, burning fat, getting real strong, pop them in the comments or feel free to reach out. So again, I'm Trail Baldock, the Prolapse Coach. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care.